If you're dealing with stomach issues, I got to tell you, you are not alone. According to the American College of Gastroenterology, anywhere between 10 to 15% of adults suffer from IBS, known as irritable bowel syndrome. So today we're talking about IBS. What is it? What is it? How do you diagnose it? And the steps you can take to prevent it from happening to you. So Dr. Charles Carver from Rockingham Gastroenterology Associates is here with us. All right, so first, I know it sounds like a big thing, IBS, right? And everybody's like, oh gosh, what is that? What are the symptoms of IBS? And how is it different than just say like an upset stomach?
Well, first and foremost, Tanya, thank you so much for having me. Really happy to be here. It is IBS Awareness Month, and as you mentioned, it's extremely common. Affects 10 to 15% of people worldwide. The hallmark symptom is abdominal pain. And how is this different than maybe the abdominal pain you might get from bad takeout or something like that? Is it's chronic. And what I mean by that is that on average, it occurs at least once per week for at least 6 months. And a lot of my IBS patients, even longer than that, years and years, they typically deal with this. Another associated symptom is typically a change in bowels, whether that be on the constipation or the slower side or on the looser side, going to the bathroom numerous times a day or somewhere in between. A lot of my IBS patients do kind of hover in that zone where they go back and forth. Bloating is, although not necessary for the diagnosis itself of IBS, is also a very common symptom, especially after meals. That kind of gassy, just feeling bloated sensation.
And I could see where people would just think, like you said, it was just bad takeout and they don't know
Right.
what else. Okay, so who is at risk for IBS?
Well, I'd say first and foremost, we all are. I mean, 10, 15%, that's a very prevalent disease worldwide, and certainly the most common one in the gastrointestinal world, my world. But the most at-risk patients are females, and especially those females under the age of 45. A lot of my younger female patients are typically all IBS type symptoms.
All right, so when should you contact your healthcare provider if you're having stomach issues, and then who do you contact?
Great question. I would recommend that all your viewers have a low threshold to contact their healthcare provider, especially if they're having issues, because this affects quality of life. These are symptoms that interfere with your daily acts of living, going to the store, going to school, going to your job, all the above. So I would have a low threshold to contact your healthcare professional, and especially if you're exhibiting what we call alarm symptoms. These are warning signs that you definitely need to be seen by a subspecialist such as myself. This would include bleeding with your bowel movements, whether it be red or black. This would include unintentional weight loss. I have my patients, I've been doing my regular diet, and then all of a sudden I've lost 20 pounds and I have no idea why. I was not exercising more. I was not eating healthier. That's certainly an alarm symptom. And there's a few others that we could talk about too. But I would recommend that all your patients, if there's affecting their quality of life, absolutely reach out to their healthcare provider. Your primary care provider is a great place to start. They can do an initial evaluation and history and physical, and see if you're required to see a subspecialist such as myself, and kind of direct you in the right path as far as that goes. If you don't have a primary care physician, that's okay. You can go to conehealth.com/appointments. We have plenty of primary care providers throughout Greensboro and surrounding areas that are accepting new patients, and we'd be glad to take care of you.
Right, okay. So, stomach issues, they're not the most comfortable to talk about. So what would you say to someone who's kind of like, I just don't want to make that appointment. I'm fine. I'm sure I'll be fine.
Absolutely. I would say that as weird as it sounds, I went into GI, and all my colleagues went into GI or gastroenterology because that's where our passion is. So we try to make the whole clinic experience as comfortable as possible. We want that to be very much an open dialogue with our patients, because the more you can tell me about what's going on, the better I can treat you. So we understand that these are not comfortable things to talk about, and we certainly do our best to harbor an environment that makes it okay for you to talk about them. And trust me when I tell you, as a gastroenterologist, I've literally heard it all. So there's
Right.
nothing that you can bring up that's going to surprise me.
Okay, so let's kind of like go with that. Since you said, you want to make it in an open clinical environment, what should they expect if they go to an appointment?
Sure, sure. So For the main question, the main, I guess, fear that all my patients have when they see me for their first time is, oh gosh, he's gonna want me to get a colonoscopy, and
Hmm.
I don't want to do that. That sounds terrible. I will tell you, for the diagnosis of IBS, colonoscopy is not required. A lot of times, just by a full history and physical, typically involving blood work as well, plus or minus stool studies, we can make that diagnosis. If you're having alarm symptoms, some of the ones I mentioned earlier, the bleeding, the weight loss, if you're over the age of 45, if you had a sudden change of symptoms, I've always been a little bit constipated, going every 2 to 3 days, but now all of a sudden I'm total opposite, or all of a sudden I'm way worse. That would be a red flag to me that something has changed. Family history of colon cancer, family history of inflammatory bowel disease. There's some things that might warrant a colonoscopy, but certainly not necessary for the diagnosis of IBS more often than not. And we've sort of gotten away from trying to scope everyone to rule out things, because the
Hmm.
quicker we can get a diagnosis, the quicker we can get you treated and feeling better.
And sometimes blood work or stool sample can just do that easy when
Right.
without
And
without
that's
setting up
easy.
something else. Okay.
Absolutely, absolutely. And a lot of times the primary care provider has already done a lot of the leg work for me. I just have to order a few things just to kind of complete the workup. And usually doesn't involve expensive tests like imaging, like CT scans and things like that. IBS, we've really, our societies, you mentioned the American College of Gastroenterology, we really try to push more of let's get these patients diagnosed quicker with less invasive testing so we can get them treated quicker and
Okay.
feeling better.
All right, so what we're going to do, we're going to take a quick break. When we come back, we're going to be talking about diet and IBS and some things that we can do to maybe like ward that off or make it better. We'll be talking about that coming up in the next break.